I'm excited to bring on our next speaker, Michelle Adelman, the founder and CEO of Accite Holdings. Let's give it up for Michelle for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so we've already had some awesome presentations about investing in climate tech. And
I know, and I've got the lull before lunch, right?
No, that's fine. We'll wake everybody up. We'll be good. So give everyone a little background about yourself and, tell us about you and Accite Holdings.
Yeah, so my journey into sustainability and investing really started 12 years ago. I spent the first part of my career at Accenture and had worked all over the world, kind of for big corporates, and decided to take what I thought was going to be a 2-year sabbatical to Africa, where I had started a foundation that focused on providing support for orphan and vulnerable children and empowering women. And that 2-year sabbatical turned into kind of a 12-year love affair with focusing on building new businesses, focusing on sustainability, and in the food and ag tech space.
That's amazing. So you spent 12 years in Africa?
Yeah, so I moved in 2010. I have one of those stories that somebody said to me when I was on a panel once. I had a life story that was most likely to be on a made-for-TV movie. But somewhere along the way, I met my partner, who was the brand new U.S. ambassador to Botswana, where I was living at the time. And I was there. I had launched my first business, which was a greenhouse business called Go Fresh, where we had put very high-tech hydroponic greenhouses in the middle of the desert, in the middle of Botswana in Africa. And I was at the embassy selling lettuce. And he seemed to be very interested in lettuce. I don't know why. But as a result of that, I ended up staying in Botswana a little bit longer. And then he became the U.S. ambassador to Bangladesh. And so I traveled with him and lived in Bangladesh for 3 years before returning back to Southern Africa.
That's amazing. We'll get to Accite, but you've done so much cool stuff in your life that I want to just ask you more about that. What brought you out to Africa in the first place?
Well, I had done one of these crazy things called go on vacation. And it turns out I'm not very good at being on vacation. So I'd gone on safari, and I, after the first couple of days of getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and going out and seeing, all the wild animals, I missed that kind of connection. And so I started staying back at camp and sitting around drinking copious amounts of coffee because, when you stay behind at camp, all the staff have to actually entertain you when you're the only one around. And really started spending a lot of time talking with the staff and trying to understand what their challenges were, what their life was like. I really hadn't ever been to Africa. I'd worked all over the world, but never in Africa. And it was just at the kind of the peak or the back end of the HIV/AIDS crisis. And, I learned that in a country like Botswana that only has 2 million people, there were nearly 200,000 AIDS orphans. And so I got very interested in how do we go about empowering women, being able to help them create sustainable lives for themselves, have financial security, and to provide for their children, because many women not only care for their own children, but they're caring for extended family members who have passed as part of the crisis. And so that's how things got started. And I decided that what I wanted to do is really use my skills to what I thought was going to start being some little cottage businesses that were based on a couple of key principles. One is I wanted to use technology as the catalyst for change to create a new business where it didn't exist before. I wanted to use sustainable technologies at the core of the businesses that I was creating, and I wanted those jobs to create jobs for women and youth. And so that's how, after experimenting in a whole bunch of different things and failing at a lot of things, I ended up focusing most of my time in agriculture and food. Because by using new technology in the food system, was able to really make a big difference. I mean, agriculture and food results in about 14% of all global emissions. And often we don't realize how big the environmental footprint of the food we eat is, whether it be based on the method that it's used to grow or on the transportation and the supply chain. Our food system has a massive impact on the climate, and it's actually one of the controllable things that we have to do as individuals. I mean, I think, we're all here at EarthX, so we're all committed to sustainability and believe in climate change and want to do something about it. But I think a lot of people, and even me, on an everyday basis, you're like, am I really making a difference? How can I really move the dial? Yes, I turn off my lights and I try to recycle and I try to cut back on my single-use plastics, but am I really moving the dial on climate change? And actually, the food that you eat is probably one of the biggest daily decisions that you make that you can have a personal impact on sustainability.
Wow. Well, thank you for all the work that you've done and sort of having that vision while you were there. Tell us how these life experiences shifted and molded sort of the businesses that you've started over the course of your career.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting how everything, excuse me, has kind of come full circle. So, I started by investing in the food space in Africa. I started with this hydroponic greenhouse business where we knew that hydroponic and controlled environment technology worked, right? The challenge, I think, is always how do you take this known technology and how do you create a business model that's highly localized that will work in the environment that you want to invest in and create the change in. And so what we did is we created a distributed model where we put the greenhouses very close to the consumers. Because one of the big challenges in Africa is that more than 50% of fresh produce is lost or stolen somewhere in the supply chain. And there's big distances between kind of the population centers. So by putting the greenhouses right on the edge of the cities, we were able to grow fresh produce, pick it fresh daily every day, deliver it to our customers within 25 kilometers, which not only allowed us to put a fresher, more nutrient-dense product on the shelves at the retailers and in restaurants, but it also helped our customers change their supply chain. So they were able to reduce refrigeration and reduce the amount of storage they had because they didn't have to buy, lettuce and salad makings for a week. They could literally buy it on a daily basis. And that kind of caused them to change their own business models, which then made our model very sticky. Because once they kind of got addicted to our deliver fresh daily model and had changed their infrastructure that enabled, it was very, very hard then for competitors to step in and to kind of take our customers.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us about Accite Holdings now, because you've had some huge wins in the past couple weeks and months. Tell us a little bit, about the business in general for those who are not familiar and, what your kind of goals are with the company.
Yeah, so after we built the Go Fresh business, I started looking at what are the next big rocks that we need to move in the food system. And fresh produce is one of them. And the next big one is protein. So if we look at the statistics, we're going to have, 10 billion people on the planet by 2050. The science says that if we don't change how we're producing meat and dairy in particular, we are going to struggle to feed the world's population. And, a lot of that growth is coming from Africa, right? So in America, Europe, we're large consumers on a per capita basis of meat and dairy, but we're not really growing the consumption hugely, right? It is growing a little bit. Whereas if you look at Africa and South Asia, where I happen to have spent a lot of my time, that's where the populations are growing, and that is where you're seeing a huge amount of increase in the consumption of protein. So I started looking at plant-based solutions as an alternative to being able to put more sustainable food and focusing in Africa where consumption is relatively low. So I started a plant-based food distribution business called Infinite Foods, and we started representing all of the leading plant-based food brands. But as part of that work, I realized that while I believe very much in plant-based food, and I've been vegan for 10 years, the adoption of plant-based alternatives is gonna happen. It's just gonna be much slower than anybody thought. And I'm a little worried the planet might blow up before 2050. So I was like, okay, we need to do something different. So I had an opportunity to get a hold of a new technology that was originated in Stanford University based on the same research that was behind Impossible Foods, which was studying the molecular makeup of meat. And the result of that is a patent that allows us to make all natural real meat ground products, ground hamburger, ground pork, ground lamb, but make them 60% out of chicken. So it is an all-natural, real meat product. So it appeals to the 98% of people that are still eating meat. And it's all natural ingredients. It's not highly processed, like a lot of plant-based food are criticized to be. And it's also very affordable. And it tastes and performs just like regular ground meat. So we launched our company, Crossover Meats. We got into our first U.S. retailers last summer, and in the last 2 weeks, we rolled out to 1,500 additional stores, including all Giant Foods, Giants, and Food Lions on the East Coast, and about 310 Walmarts in Texas and Southern California.
Wow, let's give it up for that. That's a huge win, huge accomplishment. That's amazing.
Terrifying, terrifying, but
that was in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, literally was in March. So
wow, congratulations.
I've been on the road a lot. I've been driving. If anybody follows us on Instagram or TikTok, you'll see that I've been spending a lot of time on the road, stopping at Food Lions, and starting tomorrow, I'll be starting to go to Walmart. So after tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to head south and start hitting some Walmart stores as well.
Well, yeah, we'll have to follow the journey. Well, again, congratulations on that. That is huge. That's amazing. What are sort of your next goals and your next steps to continue the growth?
Yeah, so we need to continue to expand our retail footprint. I mean, there's 50,000, retailers, stores in the United States. We're in 1,800, right? So we have to get over that 2,500 tipping point. So obviously expanding our retail footprint is very important. We need people to go out to the stores that we have and buy product because we have to move the stuff that's on the shelf. So we need.
I've tried it. It's really good. So I can vouch for it.
So if anybody wants coupons or their Crossover Meat swag, you can find me. If you are from Texas and you're Houston, San Antonio, Austin, or you live anywhere on the East Coast, you can pretty much get the product now. So we have to, increase our brand awareness and our velocities in the stores. We're now starting to move into institutional food service. So we are talking with corporate cafeterias, colleges, and universities about adopting our product into their menus. I mean, this is really impactful from a carbon perspective. Each serving literally cuts 1.5 kilograms of carbon. So if you've got a company that's made a net zero commitment, for example, and you're trying to figure out what levers to pull, well, introducing our product into your corporate cafeteria is one of the easiest ways, and we can literally give you measurement on the, just like. And the same thing for retailers. I mean, we just did this with Food Lion. Ahold was just won the top sustainability award, and we're literally able to tell Ahold how many kilograms of carbon they've been able to save by putting our product on the shelves and encouraging consumers to switch from regular ground beef to our product.
So a couple more questions. We're running a little bit out of time. How can we help you? What is a call to action for our audience today, and how can they apply, some of your knowledge to their lives as well?
Yeah. Well, I think the answer is yes. So right now my focus is really on growing Crossover Meats. So follow us on social at Crossover Meats. We're on all of the platforms. If you have any influence or connections, if you have a corporate that runs a cafeteria, or you're part of a college or university that would want our product, please reach out. If you're near a store, please go out and buy and try the product. It's really great. And we are going to be launching a new fundraising round. So if you're interested in investing in food tech and in sustainability, also please find me.
Awesome. Well, I think it's amazing hearing the journey of how you went, from so localized in Africa with these greenhouses, just on the outskirts of these towns, to now this national and global scale. It's really amazing. I'm excited to continue watching your journey because we're literally getting to see it happen as we go. Can you share just maybe one memory of, back when you were living in Africa and helping these women entrepreneurs that kind of sticks out in your mind that, was really inspirational or moving for you?
Well, I think it was very interesting because, Earl continues, he retired from the State Department and then joined the Peace Corps and went to Mongolia as the country director. And, sometimes when you are doing impact investing and you are, you have your mission and your vision of what you're trying to accomplish, but some days it just really feels like a struggle and you're like, have I really made a difference? And it was very interesting. In February, I was in Mongolia visiting Earl, and we went to go see a traditional shaman, a traditional Mongolian shaman. And that's a crazy experience, by the way. But one of the things that I asked him was, what should I do with GoFresh? Is this, is this something I should continue to invest in? Should I hand it over to my employees? Like, I don't really know if I've really made any change in the world. And he said to me, and I thought this was very interesting. He said, it doesn't matter. And I asked him why, and he says, because the difference that you wanted to make has already happened. And I think that really resonated with me, which is, you talk about teaching people to fish, right? But, by empowering women, by providing them financial security, it's had a massive trickle-down effect on them, their kids, their ability to protect themselves from gender-based violence, their confidence and ability to stand on their own afterwards. And so at the end of the day, those things that you do to try to make a difference in people's lives do matter. Sometimes you don't feel it and see it, and a lot of times you definitely don't see it in your bank account. But at the end of the day, I think knowing that I've been able to make that kind of positive impact on people's lives is really important to me.
How amazing is that? Let's give it up for Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Last time we talked, you were in Mongolia, and I'm like, you're going to be in Dallas, right? Just making sure. So thank you so much for being here today.
Great.
Congratulations. If anyone's interested, learning more, find Michelle. Obviously, a lot going on. So yeah, appreciate you coming out today. Thank you so much.